All right. Hey people, welcome back to my Chaos and Noah stream, and we're gonna continue where we left off. Let's see where we left off. Start of chapter 8. Nice. Alright. Let me double check a couple of things. And things are looking alright. Cool. Alright. Let's go. Initiated by Mose, a meeting was slated to be held at Fresia Crampiero, a meeting to which Ban was now running nearly half an hour late. Momose's angry voice hurled into him as he entered the office. In response to this, Ban gave a minor shrug, and proceeded to walk up to the desk of Fresia's president with an amicable smile on his face. He had not brought any refreshments today, something he was beginning to believe may have been a last in judgment.
あら、つばちゃんは？
今日は別行動。
若い子をこき使ってバンちゃんは楽してるわけね。
いやいや、俺もちゃんとやってるよ。昨日だって徹夜でいろいろ調べてたんだぜ。おかげで最近の女子高生の生態についてはかなり詳しくなった。
あんたね、呆れて物も言えないわ。
で、こうして俺を呼びつけたってことは、あの子と連絡取れたってこと？
今来てるわ。
さすがももちゃん。ちなみに可愛い子かい
Momose promptly smacked Ban over the head, stopping his opportunistic grin in its tracks. The sheer speed with which she had turned her wrist made the slap especially fierce.
いつまでもバカなこと言ってんじゃないわよ、エロ親父。
冗談だって。
Still a Choden man. Before arriving at the building, Ban had made a private request to Momose. It entails setting up a meeting between him and a certain person connected to the new gen cases. Rather than anything work related, it was merely to satiate a personal curiosity. He was not planning on talking about anything related to the new gen investigations for the time being. And due to his position, Ban could not simply meet with the person on his own, else he would risk drawing the ire of the detectives he was getting ahead of. Momose urged Ban over to the corner of the office. It was a fairly cramped space, almost all of which was already taken up by shelves packed full of files. The location was used as a reception area of sorts, and a pair of love seats had been wedged into the only place they could fit. Ban entered the section after Momose and his eyes landed upon a lone girl sitting in one of the love seats. The girl was wearing a Sume Academy uniform. Her head and shoulders were curved toward the ground, and she looked incredibly haggard.
ごめんね。お待たせしちゃって。
The girl looked up in startlement upon hearing Momose. In the process, her glasses had slipped down her nose a bit, leading her to swiftly readjust them with her finger.
いえ、平気です。
When she saw Ban, her expression turned slightly fearful, before bowing her head in greeting a moment later. Ban felt somewhat hurt by this. He had made every attempt to look as non-threatening as possible in both bearing and appearance, but the girl's reaction made him realize that, despite his best efforts, the ferocity and intimidation particular to detectives was seeping out all the same. Looks like I've still got a lot of more practicing to do, he thought with bitter amusement as he sat across from Yua.
楠木優愛さん だね。
はい。
亡くなったミヤさんの双子の姉。それで間違いないかな。
Yua slightly adjusted her posture, then returned a nod. The first new gen incident, the group dive. Among the 5 high schoolers that had lead to their deaths was a girl named Kusunoki Miya.
まあ、そんな緊張しなさんな。君を取り調べようなんて思っちゃねえんだ。雑談程度に思ってよ。
I don't know, man.
本題に入る前に、ちょっと聞いていいかい？ゆあちゃんは妹さんが亡くなったことについてどう思う？
ちょっとバンちゃん。
Jesus Christ. Straight to the point. No bedside manners.
あ、悪いね。職業病ってやつか。気を使うような言い方できなくってな。ただ、気になってたんだ。捜査本部でも話題になってたんだが、楠木美也さんの遺族は奇妙だって。
ばあちゃん。
What is he trying to invoke here, man?
いえ、いいんです。
Before Momose could rise to her feet over Ban's insensitive comment, Yua stopped her. No, really, what was he playing here? I'm trying to figure out why he went insensitive here. You know, Ban is like a guy who, you know, he isn't like some dude who's just. He's doing this deliberately, basically, you know?
私もおかしいって思いますから。
あ
Oh, he was trying to get some form of like, you know, I forgot what the term for that. Anyway, you guys get it.
集団ライブで飛び降りた5人には自殺する理由なんてなかった。家族や友人はみんなそう主張している。だが、ミヤさんの家族だけは違った。
Ban took his fan out from his belt and began cooling himself.
何も主張しなかった。あっさり受け入れたって聞いてる。あまりに何も言わなさすぎて奇妙だったってな。なんでだい？
お父さんもお母さんもみやちゃんが死んでからおかしくなっちゃったんです。
Anguish seeped from Yua's voice.
最初はみやちゃんの事件の知らせを受けた日はそれでも泣いていたんです。お父さんもお母さんもとても辛そうでした。でも次の日の朝、なぜか二人は楽しそうに笑っていたんです。みやちゃんが死ぬ前と全く同じに戻ってたんです。たった一日で。私、わけがわからなくて、二人はみやちゃんのこと忘れようとしてるんじゃないかって思って。そうしたらお父さんが笑いながら、お前に妹なんていないよって。
Damn, man. Damn. Especially with context about like events, but here alone is like, damn, man.
みやちゃんが残した洋服とか靴とかを見せても全然取り合ってくれないんです。それはお前のために予備で買ってあったものだって。そうやってお父さんたちはニュースからも警察の話からも目を背けて、記憶からみやちゃんのことを消し去ろうとしてるんです。
つまり双子じゃなかったことに。
それで警察にもうちは一人っ子だって言って追い返してたわけか。
Super cope, man.
私とみやちゃんは一卵性で見た目は瓜二つなんですけど、あの子は、妹は親から嫌われていました。あの子はいつも自分の気持ちを押し殺して私のことを一番に考えてくれていたんです。
As Yua spoke, memories from when Mio had still been alive resurfaced in her mind. First came a memory from when the two had still been in elementary school. One day, some relatives had brought the girls a single large teddy bear as a present. In contrast to the raw joy Yua displayed, Mia insisted that she did not like stuffed animals, and proceeded to not even so much as look at the plush's way. Both her relatives and parents were upset with Mia for not acting as the child should. But despite Mia's protesting, Yua whispered to her that the two of them could share it, that it could be something they could both treasure. However, in response to her sister's kindness, Mia simply said that she did not want it, and that Yua could have it. A month later, when Yua got tired of the teddy bear, she woke up in the night and happened to witness a certain scene. With an incredibly joyful look on her face, Mia was hugging and talking to the bear plushie. That was the first time Yua had ever seen her sister so happy. And from this, she realized that her sister's insistence about disliking stuffed animals had been a lie. Mia had been keeping her own feelings hidden, all for the sake of her older sister. Ooh, why is this plot line? Why is this story important? Ooh, remember they're twins. The next day, Yua found a lovely drawing of a bear beneath Mia's pillow. Until her sister had grown tired of the teddy bear, Mia had been hugging and sleeping with the drawing in lieu of it. Things very similar to this happened again and again over all 18 years they spent together. For their birthday celebrations, Yua always blew out the candles on the cake, but when Mia was prompted to do it, she would say, "I refuse to do something so ridiculous," angering her parents. Yua advanced to the private high school Sume Academy, while Mia, meanwhile, had been misbehaving at school, deliberately scoring low on exams, and therefore moved on to public high school. Due to the exorbitant fees, their parents would have only been able to afford to send one of them to a private school. No matter how hard Yua tried to let her sister have something, Mia would always gain the upper hand and force Yua to be prioritized. To achieve this end, she even intentionally took a dislikable attitude. Yua, having now reached her limit, could no longer squeeze out any more words. She took off her glasses, pressed her fingers against the corners of her eyes, and broke down in tears. Momose sat down beside her and gently rubbed her back.
それでゆあちゃんは一人で事件のことを調べていたらしいの。
Let me close my other window. The fuck? It keeps updating my emails and I'm getting distracted. Alright, let's go back to this.
ミアちゃんに一体何があったのか知るためにね。
そりゃ大変だったわ。
そして一人の人物を突き止めた。
As Momose held Yua's shoulders, she turned her eyes toward back.
西條匠くんよ。
なるほどね。
Stroking the soto on his chin, Ban leaned forward from the sofa.
いつだったか西条と追跡劇をしてたっていう女子高生の話を所轄のデカから聞いたんだが、もしかしてユアちゃんだったりする？
Ewan nodded apologetically.
ああ、興味あるな。詳しく聞かせてもおうと思ったけどちょっとごめんよ。
With a strained smile, Ban lightly bowed his head to Yua and Momose. His words had been interrupted by the cell phone in his suit pocket. He swiftly took out the phone and checked the screen. Suwa's name was displayed across it.
もしもし、どうした？
先輩、7番目っす。
なんだと？
Suwa's voice sounded strained. The sounds of investigators frantically scurrying about could be heard through the phone. Suwa must have been at the investigation headquarters.
ニュージェネ第7の事件が起きたんすよ。
Ban's eyes opened wide, and his expression turned bitter as his teeth sank into his lip. Sensing the seriousness of the situation from his behavior, Momose and Yua watched the detective with unease.
ガイシャは3人、友人同士らしいっす。3人とも胴体から体が切断されてて、それぞれの上半身と下半身を別々に入れ替えて手ぐす、釣りとっすね。それで縫い付けられてたっす。それと額にそれぞれ Q、D、N って読める傷が。
何かのメッセージか？
DQN. DQN.
そこまでは。それと気になることが、司法解剖の結果分かったんですけど、ガイシャの胴体の切断部はノコギリとか包丁とかそういう刃物で切断されたものじゃないって。
どういう意味だ？
なんか強い力で引きちぎられたそうっす。
引きちぎられた。
Ban repeated Suwa's words back to him with a low groan, then roughly scratched his head with the handle of his fan.
あるいは最近流行りの魔法使いとかな。
Mahotsukai. Mahotsukai.
それマジで言ってんすか？映画オタクの自分でもさすがにその意見には同意しかねるんです。
単なる例えだ、バカな。映画ら、さっさと捜査に戻れ。
After barking the order to Suwa, Ban ended the call. Now that it was November, I had a feeling that sun was already setting much earlier than before. By the way, 16 days from now is Kozue's birthday. I remember her birthday because it's gonna be November, and she told her birthday. By the time Remy and I started heading home together after school, a faint orange was already staining the sky.
ごめんね。
Despite being silent up until now, Remy abruptly apologized.
たく、いろいろ大変だったんでしょ。
It was the first time I've gone home with Remy in a while. I was genuinely really happy that she come back. She even been the one to initiate it, saying, "Let's walk home together." Since we only gotten home together no more than twice, I'd secretly been worried that it would never happen again. However, that turned out not to be the
一
case.
緒にいてあげられなくてごめん。知り合いが例の地震で怪我しちゃってずっと面倒見てたから。
Even though I haven't asked, Rumi was kind enough to explain herself to me. Though to be frank, almost all of Rumi's words were going in one ear and out the other. The bandage. The bandage I've seen on Nanami's wrist at lunch break. It had been burned into my eyes and refused to go.
もしかして怒ってる？
In the end, I had failed to say anything to Nanami. I'd been too scared. Even though Nanami was my Imoto, even though I was Nanami's Oni-chan. No, Ni-chan. No, she Oni. Okay, let's go for Oni because she literally calls him Oni instead of like Oni-chan, which is like a very insulting way of saying older brother, using word puns. Something had just felt unbelievably strange, and I had no idea what it was. The nurse had said that Nanami had no injuries. That hand that Shogun had delivered to my base had disappeared from the fridge without a trace. It all had to have been a delusion. But if that was true, why had Nanami's right wrist have been wrapped in a bandage? Though it was possible that I was just overthinking it and that she just gotten burned or stung by something or got some other stupid minor injury that didn't matter at all. Yeah. That was probably it. That was the most logical answer. But even now, I was still too scared to check. Even after failing to save her, I was still just pacing around, doing nothing, not even trying to talk to her. My own Imoto. I really was the worst brother ever.
ねえタク、おーい、もしもーし。怒ってるならそう言ってよ。無視されるのって結構傷ついちゃうな。
え
I looked over at Remy, who seemed weirdly disheartened.
あ、
もしかして、私の話聞いてなかった？
After hesitating for a second, I nodded. And the moment I did, Remy jabbed my cheek with her forefinger.
石てっきり無視されたかと思ったよ。紛らわしいことしない。
Oh, just jab your nail into my cheek.
あ、大丈夫？
Remy finally stopped poking me, and out came those words I heard so often from her. Words of worry and concern. Words that I heard from Remy again and again.
お昼ぐらいから顔色良くないよ。元気もないみたいだし。もしかして誰かにひどいこと言われた？だったら私に教えて。怒ってきてあげるから。
It was acting like an older Onechan, or a guardian even. Remy was just a hopeless meddler. Well, that had been obvious from the moment she'd given an otaku freak like me the time of the day. I was grateful to her for being worried about me. Before now, I either bottled up my worries deep inside or posted them anonymously at ad channel. Should I tell her about what happened with Nanami? But when I told her about the sword that one time, she hadn't believed me at all. Then again, that would be the natural response from anyone sane. So if I were to tell her about Nanami, she'd probably either A, be speechless, B, just laugh in my face. And if that was true, there really was no point in telling her. All I needed was for her to stay by my side. It would be better to bring the topic up with Kozupi or Senna instead. I just love how they go home together in the same place. Oh man. Seishun. Seishun. Anyway. Mere moments after stepping foot into my base, Remy muttered that in exasperation. And yet paradoxically she seemed to be smiling happily as well. Weird.
変わってないな。この部屋の汚さがまさにタクって感じ。
If you're gonna be like that, then just clean it. Be my guest. With a sigh, I turn on my PC.
ちょっと。帰ってくるなりパソコン？友達が来てるんだから少しはおもてなししてあげようっていう気持ちにはならないのかな。ねえ、お話ししようよ。
Laws of the delusion, let's go. After hitting me with such an unreasonable demand, Remy sat down on the sofa. If I tried to have a one-on-one conversation with the 3D girl, it would be over in seconds. As much as I've gotten used to talking with Remy, since I had a lot more chances to do so recently, I still doubted I'd even last 5 minutes. Moreover, my head was already occupied with stuff about anatomy, so I very much didn't feel up for a casual conversation. And so I resorted to just ignoring her. I sat down in my chair, all while remaining painfully aware of my own worthlessness. Nice delusion, bro. You really decided to do that to her. I sensed Remy moving behind me. The rustling of her clothes were growing closer.
だから、無視しないでよ。
Before I had the chance to turn around, I was embraced from behind. I'm never gonna make it, guys. I'm never gonna make it. A gentle floral scent hit me. My back was struck by the soft sensation of Remy's breast.
寂しいよ。そういうことされると。
I must have been running away from reality again, giving myself a delusion that was a lot easier to swallow than the real world. Upon thinking that, the sheer emptiness I felt overpowered any lust I may have had, and I was no longer able to enjoy the delusion anymore. Rather than taking her and pinning her down on the bed, I decided to throw out all the things I could have only voiced in a delusion such as this.
僕だって寂しかった。辛かったんだ。リミがこの1週間全然連絡くれなくて。
I could feel the movements of Remy's body directly against my back. Her chest faintly rose and fell with her every breath. As obvious as the facts may have been, it reminded me that Remy truly was alive.
ごめん。一緒にいてあげられなくて。ごめん。
Remy tightened her embrace around me.
私の中でもまだ迷いがあって。どうしたらいいかわからなくて。ちょっと考えてみようと思って。
Doubts? Like, what? What could she have been talking about?
そもそも私、タクと一緒にいていいのかなとか、このままの関係を続けるべきなのかなとか、でもね、このままじゃきっとダメなんだ。それじゃ何も救えない。
Oh, no. Well, you know the context of this, right? Well, we already saw her talking to Shogun, so you know what she's actually thinking about.
ねえ、タク。私が最初に願ったのはさ、一つだけだった。なのにどうして私は際限なく望み続けちゃうんだろうね。あの空を見つけた時に私は
I had no idea what Rumi was talking about, nor did I know how to respond to it. Silence enveloped us. I could hear Rumi's gentle breaths close to my ear. But no matter how long I waited for her to end it with some silly punchline, none ever came into that waffling silence. Was it possible that this wasn't a delusion? The moment I considered that, a wave of anxiety ran through me. In reality, Remy was hugging me. She was pressing tightly against me. That realization alone nearly destroyed any sense of reason I had. I had a feeling that, in a situation like this, if I pinned Remy to the bed, she'll let me have my way with her. With a gulp, I
ボケナス今の何
Remy let go of me in surprise. and the tender sensation vanished along with her. A complete makes of both relief and disappointment spread through my chest. She was cock blocked by 2D man. Wait a second. Remy had just heard my Seratan notification tone. Oh God, how embarrassing! When I opened my email software, I saw about 3 messages from Grim telling me to join the chat room. Now that I thought about it, I haven't really chatted much with Grim recently. We used to talk online pretty much every day. But since I've been refraining from playing ESO, it'd been around 10 days since we last talked. Yo. Hi, Ninar-kun. I've been waiting for you. Because there's another new gen. What are you even on about? New gen, dude. What the fuck do you think I'm on about? How exactly did we go from new gen to new gen? New gen, new gen, new gen, new gen. Come on, that shit's obvious. Use common sense. More importantly, there's a 7th case.
どうしたの？
Likely having noticed my gas, Remy stood up and walked over to me. She peeked over my shoulder at the monitor.
第7の事件。
It had happened again. Another new gen. How long was this damn thing gonna go on for? What was I next? Would I be the victim of the 8th case? The 9th?
タク、気にすることないよ。何も怖いことなんてない。タクは狙われたりなんかしない。全部タクの被害妄想。ね。
That was completely basement encouragement. You can't calm me down with such weak sauce shit, Remy. Anxiety aside, Grim was pretty much the new gen news guy at this point. He'd been keeping me in the loop about basically everything. Even now, he was going out of his way to think a bunch of blog posts and news articles about it. Seemed like he really wanted me to take a look. Biting my lip, I reluctantly clicked the first link. Alright, let me read this. On November 4th at approximately 4:50 a.m., the dead bodies of 3 men were discovered, hanging from an iron pole near a railroad in Shibuya, Tokyo. The deceased have been identified, I'm not going to read their names, but they're 3 people. According to the police, the bodies were severed in half at the waist, but the wounds did not indicate the use of sharp weaponry. Furthermore, the bottom halves of each bodies were interchanged with one another, forming new combinations which were tightly sewn back together. Carved into each body were the letters D, Q, N, respectively. The police are investigating the possibility that this may be a message left behind by the culprit. On popular anonymous online message board @channel, images of the incident were leaked prior to the official coverage of the events. It has already been accepted as the 7th case of the New Generation Madness, aka New Gen, and it was christened as the DQN puzzle, due to the manner at which top and bottom halves of the courses were recombined. Notably, at @channel, the term DQN means an individual lacking basic common sense. Regarding the serial New Gen cases, the mourning families of the victims have been taking legal action against some particularly offensive posts on @channel, a move which had sparked fierce debate online. What's this? Interview with Yuri Brightman. 1,000 calls about Esper Boy flood in overnight. His body was glowing. Japan's fake Esper Boy tops you to viewership ranking. Wait, Soreno Darenama. Wait, it says DQN Lamau. Literally zero connection to the other cases. Police are dumb as fuck, Marvel. You're saying it's one of us anti-DQNs? With their lower body swap around and shit, it's like a puzzle, but with corpses. If only I could trade my upper body with some alphas, Lamau. Or our Esper Boy needs to just snip out the perf for us at any time.
今日午前4時50分ごろ、東京都渋谷区の線路沿いで男性3人の他殺死体が鉄柱に吊り下げられているのを通りかかった新聞販売員の男性が発見しました。警察の調べによりますと、殺されたのはいずれも渋谷区に住む無職藤田康平さん、大学生の安沢三郎さん、守備職の高木亮さんの3人です。3人とも胴体の部分が切断され、それぞれの上半身と下半身が別々に入れ替えられて糸で縫合されていました。3人の額にはそれぞれ謎の傷がつけられており、警察では犯人からのメッセージではないかとみて調べています。渋谷では2ヶ月ほど前から猟奇殺人事件が頻発しており、警察では今回の事件も同一犯による犯行の可能性が高いとみて捜査を続けています。
At the end of the news clip, photos of the 3 victims were shown. I had seen those faces before.
ああ、あいつらだ。
知ってるの？
昨日僕に絡んできた。
I've given them my wallet, but they kicked my ass anyway. I'd then fallen unconscious. When I woke up, Kozupi was beside me. The 3 of them had been collapsed on the ground, covered in blood. I dug my wallet out of my pocket and stared at it intently. When I came to, Kozupi had been carrying it, and she'd given it back to me soon after. Could that person who killed those 3 be? No, definitely not. The last time I've seen them, they've been beaten to a pulp and covered in blood, but they haven't been cut in half or anything, which would mean they've been killed after Kozupi and I had left. It had to have been Shogun. That wrinkly asshole was trying to provoke me. Damn it. He really was committed to driving me insane. Just how far was he willing to go? I wanted to vomit. I clutched my stomach as it churned in pain. Was I next? Would I be next to die?
終了。
A hand reached out from behind me and pushed the power button on the monitor. The screen went pitch black. I like how she did that. She did it so you thought it was like your the game is making a scene transition, but no, it was physically Rumi turning off the monitor.
落ち着いて。気にすることないよ。ただの偶然だって、きっと。
Why was Rumi acting so ridiculously optimistic? This couldn't possibly be just a series of coincidences.
それ
Kind
よ
of
り
makes you think, what the
お腹
fuck is
空いちゃった。
Rumi on?
ねえ、私が行きつけのお店があるんだけど、そこにご飯食べに行かない？
I wonder why she's deliberately trying to trying to get you not to think about these things. I wonder why.
安くて美味しいんだよ。私が保証する。まあ、お客さんはおじさんが多いから、私みたいのが一人で行くのはちょっと恥ずかしいけどね。あ、それと、駅の中に入らなくちゃいけないんだった。渋谷駅のコーナーにあるから。ちなみに、山手線内回りと外回りのホーム、どっちにもあるんだけど、私は断然内回りの方が好き。
Yamanote Line Shibuya Station. That's a hellhole, man. I mean, Yamanote Line in itself is already a hellhole, man. But I don't know, man. Food, huh? I really didn't have much of an appetite right now. It felt like Shogun was holding a knife straight to my throat. Like he was saying, I can kill you wherever I please. Please, just let me go. What had I done to deserve this? I couldn't take it anymore. I like how she left her sword there on the wall. Kishimoto Ayase was lying on the hospital bed, idly gazing out the window. No bars lined the outside of it. a fact which set it apart from those at Arc Heart Medical, where Ayase had stayed in the past. All that stood past the window frame was the landscape of Shinjuku, decorated by skyscrapers and illuminated by sunset. Flocks of pigeons soared freely through the sky, flapping their wings to their heart's content. Oh wow, she's in Shinjuku right now. Well, so much for Shibuya. Fuck that, boys. Every now and then, she would gaze upon the sight with a pained expression. Her slightly tired eyes were empty and bleak. Her irises reflected nothing. Her lips, which could let flow a voice so beautiful it shook the youth of Shibuya, were now sealed tight. Not even so much as a hum escaped from them. Following her suicide attempt, an event which caused quite the turmoil, she had been admitted to the psychiatric ward of the large hospital in Yoyogi. Okay, that's still kind of close to. No, okay, she's kind of close to Shibuya area anyway. Her injuries were already nearly healed. According to the doctors, it had been nothing short of a miracle that she had been able to survive a fall from that height, let alone with barely even a scratch. However, she had indeed hit her head fairly hard, and as such, she had been rushed to the hospital, primarily so they could see how the situation would develop. It had already been over a week since then. However, despite her having been admitted for such a reason, all it seemed to entail was a few rudimentary tests taken every couple days or so. Beyond that, she had been rather neglected. Her hospital room was private, with no other beds inside it. Ever since her stay had begun, her D-sword had been leaning against the window and constantly emitted blue light, yet nobody who visited her ever seemed to notice. Not that there had been many visitors to begin with. Phantasm fans would attempt to force their way into her room daily, but as they always caused a disturbance in the process, the hospital had an excuse to forbid them from visiting her. And since Ayase was somewhat detached from her family, there were almost no others who came to visit her. Her fellow bandmates had made an appearance once, but Ayase used that opportunity to announce her decision for the band to break up. They had not contacted her again since.
岸本さん、体温計ピピってなりました？
A nurse wearing white scrubs opened the door to their room, and then swiftly entered. Ayase slowly turned to look at the nurse's face, then took out the thermometer that had been resting under her arm. It was as if she had only just remembered its presence. The nurse took a look at the recorded temperature shown in its digital screen, then took note of it on the clipboard she had brought with her.
37度1分と、ちょっと熱っぽいかしら。
ズキズキするわ。頭。
Ayase grimaced in pain once again.
あら、また頭痛？でもそれは薬の副作用よ。気にしなくてもそのうち良くなりますよ。
Having recorded her temperature, the nurse consoled Ayase with a kind smile. Her expression was so gentle, it was clear to all how she was able to put her patients at ease. And yet, despite the nurse's attempts, Ayase simply pushed her hand against her forehead as she shook it back and forth. Ayase had been plagued by mild headaches ever since she had first been hospitalized. They were not especially painful, but they still left her with an uncomfortable feeling that refused to go away, one that felt as if her brain itself was convulsing. It even reached a point where her ability to think was impaired. As well as this, her body would feel as heavy as lead. Ayase had experienced such symptoms in the past, namely when she had been institutionalized at Arc Heart Medical. Back then, her head had constantly been split apart by painful headaches, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. It deprived her of all sleep and emotional stability. Those were the memories she did not want to resurface, the past she had sealed away, the events of around 2 years ago. Yet, her headache was causing them to flash back into her mind once more. In them, a dark room, its single window locked behind bars. Apart from the wall in which the window stood, the rest of the walls were covered with mirrors. Ayase had been placed in the center of the room, sat in the crude steel chair. She was wearing a headgear with countless cables protruding from it. Her hands were tied at the back of the chair. Her head was locked in place with her chin slightly upward. Not another soul was present in the room. Thus all that could be heard was the sounds of Ayasa's labored breathing, and the metal groans of the chair she sat upon. Saliva trickled down from the corners of her mouth, accompanied by moans akin to those of a beast. If anyone were to hear them, they would never have been able to guess that they would be coming from a girl as young as her. She was being tortured, slow, methodical torture, one that made very, very little sound. The method only involved one single thing, not even an action. A drop of water, falling from above onto her forehead, every 5 seconds on the exact same spot. That was all it took. It would continue unrelentingly for 2 full days. The result? Ayase could think of only the drop that would fall next. Her senses were sharpened to their limits, and each time a drop fell onto her forehead, another hallucination would be born. One in which each and every nerve across her body was plucked out one by one. One at which the bones of her entire skeleton crumbled to dust. One at which her head was pierced by a long, sharp awl. One at which all liquids within her body, including her blood, froze to ice. One of which the skin lining her entire body slowly rotted away before eventually peeling off. Assailed without end by these sensations, Ayase could no longer maintain her sanity. This is a really weird pose, by the way. I don't get why the pose is like that, man. It's like she's hugging herself while being fucking horny to herself. I don't get it, man. Anyway, returning to her senses, she breathed erratically as she tightly gripped the sheets lining the bed. Her body trembled as those dark memories of hers resurfaced in her mind. The nurse that had been in her room just a moment ago was already gone. Dinner time had just arrived at the hospital, and the clamorous sounds that came from it resounded from down the hall. Ayase tried to recall the words the nurse had spoken to her right before leaving. Was her headache really just a side effect of the drugs she was on? Or had it been caused by her hitting her head, perhaps? Or perhaps it was just a hallucination brought forth by her past memories? She was unable to come to a decisive conclusion. Wiping away the sweat that ran down her forehead, Ayase called forth a smile laced with self-loathing.
構わないわ。今さら何をされたって。あれはあの神罰を耐え抜いたんだから。もう迷わない。私は。
Murmuring and perhaps delirium, Ayase soon became aware of a sound reverberating throughout the hall. The comforting sounds of shoes stepping on a linoleum floor. It was certainly not being made by a nurse, and the sounds of footsteps were heading right for the room she was in. Someone knocked on her door and she sealed her lips tight. That someone was but a single man. He had come bringing gifts, namely a large basket filled with all manner of fruits. She could recognize the man, which was far from a good sight, though she stared at him with a dubious glare.
あ、別に怪しいもんじゃないっすよ。自分は
知ってるわ。
The man was a detective at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department. He had once shadowed Ayase, as she was originally a suspect for the New Gen case. The detective, relieved by her response, scratched his head. His demeanor was unendingly casual.
いやー嬉しいっす。君みたいな美人に覚えててもらえて。記憶力いいんすね。
The detective moved closer to her bed. Ayase briefly glanced at her D-sword leaning against the window. It lay just outside her reach.
今日はお見舞いに来たんすよ。
そうは思えないわ。目的は
鋭いっすね。
The detective flinched very overtly, his reaction perhaps bordering on theatrical.
まあちょっと綾瀬ちゃんに聞きたいことがあって。あ、これよかったら食べてほしいっす。
The detective smiled innocently, presenting the basket he had brought with him, then placed it at Ayase's feet without waiting for approval.
うまいっすよ。あと高かったと。
いらない。
まあそう言わずせっかく買ってきたんで、後でお母さんが来た時にでも切ってもらって。あ、しまった。綾瀬ちゃんはもう何年も両親に会ってないんだったっすね。
You know, it felt like a deliberate jab, man. Despite the detective's insensitive remark, Ayase felt nothing in response to it. Her ties to her parents had been cut from a very young age. Her parents had a reputation to uphold, so a child that would often cause problems like Ayase had been inconvenient to them, to say at least. Her only remaining contact with them was the wire transfers she received for her living expenses each month, though it could hardly be called that.
申し訳ないっす。
The detective apologized, bowing down hastily. Ayase had only just gotten over the shock caused by her flashback, so she was in no mood to speak with him. Nonetheless, she urged herself to talk all the same.
聞きたいことって何？アリバイ？
違うっすよ。それは前に散々聞いたし。もう綾瀬ちゃんの容疑は晴れたっす。君は白、真っ白。
目星はついたの？
Not gonna lie, I feel tired. I'll probably take a nap and take dinner. I don't know, maybe I'll be back in 1 hour or 30 minutes, but I want to continue streaming this later. So yeah, I'll stream again later. So I'm just gonna take a nap first, man. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I'll see you guys on the later stream after.